It was a wild night last night. Let's talk about it. This one isn't playoff grind or anything like that, as a lot of the West stuff that needs to be shaken out wasn't overly affected last night. But Nathan Mackinnon adding to his MVP resume, it's down to him, McDavid, and Kucherov. And McKinnon was electric with a hat trick last night. Each goal that he had, he basically just jumped on the puck, outskated everyone, and scored. His speed is elite. His finishing ability is basically that as well. He also has a great pass to set up a Mackinnon goal. I gave praise to the Stars the last show. This is still the most complete team in the NHL when they are going. That power play is crazy. McKinnon is just him. He's phenomenal. Lehkonen has shown he can step up in the playoffs. Rantanen's very good. Drouin, awesome. Parise had a couple of moments in that game last night. And then on the blue line, Makar and Taves are the best defensive pairing in the National Hockey League. So this is such a complete hockey team right now, going up against the Dallas Stars, who grinded out a win last night, 3-2 over Buffalo. They had to work for this one, but I actually think that's a good thing for Dallas. The reason I like this one for the Stars is, A, they faced adversity, which you would rather they didn't, because that would mean they're winning so hard. But also, they had to battle back from that, and all the goals they scored were playoff-type goals. Robertson with a deflection after Hintz gets a steal, but Robertson, in front battling. You have Johnston just straight beats Dahlin in front, and ends up getting the tying goal, and then Pavelski wins a puck battle down low, gets it to Tanev, goes to the front of the net, deflected in. Those are the types of goals that you score in the postseason. And so Dallas is already playing a playoff style of hockey. They add Tanev on the blue line. He's been great. Harley had an assist on the Johnston goal. I think it was the Johnston one. It might have been the Pavelski one, actually. But either way, his shot ends up getting deflected, and he's been great. And like I said before, people don't talk enough about how good Miro Heiskanen is. Ottinger fought it in this game. And that's the one thing where it's like, man, that kid's got to sharpen up a little bit to get into the postseason, or once we get into the postseason. But that was a big one for the Stars in just kind of proving it. But a lot of the focus right now is out east in that playoff race. The Islanders' big players came to play in a big game. They beat the Rangers 4-2. Barzal looked great. He drew a penalty shot 8 seconds into the game. Bo Horvat had some dangerous chances all night. Palmieri looked good. He scores a goal, and Pajot had a chance. But the real difference maker in this game was Noah Dobson. He was noticeable basically every time he stepped out on the ice, and it felt like something dangerous was happening every time he had the puck in the offensive end. He was a game changer for them last night. And if he is going at that level, it kind of changes how you can maybe view this team. Again, they do not belong in the upper echelon in the amongst the upper echelon teams in the NHL or even Eastern Conference. If they finish third in their division, they are going to get shit whipped by Carolina in the first round. But I was very critical of them on the last show. I'm still kind of over it with them, but there's at least some pieces on this team where it's like there's danger in this lineup, and we know the style of play that they can bring. That this is going to be a bit of a miserable team to play in the postseason. The Capitals with a massive win over the Red Wings. 2-1 over Detroit, puts them 1 point up on Pittsburgh and Detroit for the last wildcard spot. And this one was all Lindgren. Detroit was all over Washington early in this game. He held up long enough to allow Strome to get a chance and score, and then Ovi gets one short side. And that was basically ball game. Detroit was all over Washington this entire game. Larkin was exceptional in this game. The thing that concerns me a little bit on a Detroit standpoint is how easy it is to miss DeBrincat on a number of different plays. He does kind of just become part of the furniture a little bit out there, and I think they need him to be a bit more of a game breaker in the last week to 10 days of the regular season here as they are trying to push the playoff spot, because they needed someone else to step up in this game. They were creating chances, and Lindgren was shutting the door. They played a good game, but they needed someone else to step up in this one. Ovi gets to 30. It's the 18th time he's done that in his career. It's the most in NHL history, which is funny because remember when this was a down year for Ovechkin? Oh yeah, just 30. Now he's going to be not even halfway to the top goal scorer in the league, but still, he was exceptional. You know who wasn't? The Philadelphia Flyers. A horrendous game last night for the Philadelphia Flyers in the middle of a playoff race, And that's how you show up. Like, that should almost disqualify them from playoff contention for how bad that was last night. No defense to speak of at all. They lost every puck battle, every race. And like I said, defensively, nothing. Everyone's focused on Suzuki, and Slavkovsky is left wide open for a goal. Like, just absolutely no resistance to anything that Montreal was doing. An embarrassing performance. Good for Slavkovsky to get his first career hat trick. Good for Montreal, they get 9. But what a dreadful showing from the Philadelphia Flyers in a game that you absolutely had to have in this Eastern Conference playoff race. So that's the playoff race in the East. In as far as positioning goes, this was a real missed opportunity last night for the Bruins. I think this is actually a concern for them. They sleepwalked. They were lazy in this game against the Hurricanes. It was a bad loss. Carolina just dummied them this entire game. And I know they don't have a ton to play for right now, although I do push back on that a little bit. They are still probably going to finish first in their division. They're 3 points up on Florida with 3 to go. But they had a chance to move to within a point of the Rangers in the Eastern Conference. And I do think that means something, because as it sits right now, they are the 2 seed in the East. So they would get the first wildcard team. That's Tampa Bay. The second wildcard team is Washington. There is, I think, I respect what Washington has done, and Lindgren could steal a series, apparently. But there's pretty sizable gap because of how well Tampa Bay is playing right now, and the facing them and facing Washington, Detroit, Philadelphia Islanders, whoever squeaks in to that second wildcard spot. So winning the East this year, I think, actually comes with a pretty significant reward. And for Boston to just kind of ho-hum their way through that game, I think is really not a great thing. Also, need I remind you that this was a Boston team that cruised through the regular season, dominated their way to the President's Trophy, and were out in 7 because that switch just couldn't flip the way it had for the Florida Panthers. Effort like this is really concerning from a Boston Bruins standpoint. Lastly, Matthews gets 66 last night. He had a fantastic game. He drives to the net, draws all the attention from the Devils' defense, leaves Domi with a great pass over to Bertuzzi, who finishes. I believe that opened the scoring, and then Matthews snipes one a little bit later on. He's so dangerous every time he touches the ice, and I know there's been discussion about what to do with him. Do you let him push for 70, or do you sit him for these last games? I'd probably at least sit him for the last 1, maybe 2 for Toronto. I just think it is, like, we're at the point we've established this season's incredible. Bravo. But he needs to be ready for the postseason.